Hello guys, this is Adip. Welcome to my channel Movement Science, where I simplify biomechanics with Joe. If you are new to this channel, consider subscribing because I post biomechanics and lot of ortho related topics over here on this channel, and also lot of applications which you can use in your clinical practice. Also check me out on Instagram where I post MCQs and also pictures of my notes. The reference time for all the topics that I'm going to cover will be mentioned down in the description. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now, before I start this topic, I suggest you guys to check out my other videos on ankle. That is, it is a series, so you have to go in order to understand this topic, right? So check out the series where I've talked about the ankle joint first, that is a talocrural joint. Then we talked about the subtalar axis, the structure, and how subtalar motions take place. And now this is the application part. So let's get started. So in this video, we are going to talk about the subtalar joint application. We will cover the range of motion of subtalar joint. Then we will see the factors that affect the range of motion or that put the subtalar joint in pronation or supination during our normal daily activity. And then we will discuss about the significance or application of this. So to begin with, the subtalar joint range of motion is measured by the movement of the calcaneum in open pack position. The range of motion of the subtalar joint is measured by the movement of the calcaneum when it is free or it is in non-weight bearing position. And in prone position, you check for calcaneal inversion, that is the movement of the calcaneum medially, and calcaneal eversion, that is the movement of the calcaneum outward. The calcaneal inversion is around 20 to 30 degrees, whereas eversion is around 5 to 10 degrees. The total range of motion that is present in the subtalar joint is around 25 to 45 degrees. Now, the midpoint between the inversion and eversion is called as the subtalar neutral. And this is not well defined because many people have different subtalar neutral. That is, some people have a more pronated hindfoot, whereas some people have more of a supinated hindfoot. So it keeps varying. But even with some amount of variation, we still have a mid-range where it is called as the subtalar neutral, and this is how your foot should be in weight bearing. If there is increased supination or increased pronation of the subtalar or the hindfoot, it can be problematic, and we'll see some of the factors which can lead to this. So now when I'm talking about the factors, these factors are the factors which can cause your hindfoot to go for pronation or supination, or these can be factors that are caused due to supination and pronation of the hindfoot. Let me explain this in more depth. So when you talk about a footwear, if your footwear has a medial arch, that is, the medial part of your footwear is arched, it gives a good support to your medial arch, right? But if your footwear doesn't have a medial arch, your foot won't get enough support on the medial aspect, hence your foot can go for pronation. Another factor would be the running surface. What kind of surface do you run on? Or a very important point would be a femoral or tibial torsion. So how does femoral and tibial torsion affect your subtalar joint? We saw that during inversion of the calcaneum, the talus goes for abduction, that is, if this is the toe, it moves or rotates laterally, whereas during eversion, it rotates medially or it causes adduction of the talus, right? So if you see, the talus fits into the tibial mortise. So when the talus goes for medial or lateral rotation or abduction and adduction, it rotates the tibia and fibula or the mortise that is formed by tibia and fibula on top of it, right? So when talus goes for abduction, that is lateral rotation, the tibia will also go for lateral rotation, whereas if talus goes for adduction, the tibia and fibula on top will also go for medial rotation. So hence, a pronation of foot, that is when the calcaneus goes for eversion, the talus will go for adduction and the forefoot will also go for pronation, and this will cause medial rotation of the tibia. Whereas when the foot is supinated, that is talus goes for inversion, this will cause lateral rotation of the tibia. So this is how femoral or tibial torsion causes subtalar supination or pronation of the foot. Now obesity is also another factor. In many obese people, you can see calcaneal eversion because of so much weight is being transferred on this joint. Other factors can be also intrinsic muscles of the foot. That is, if there is weakness of these intrinsic muscles, they cannot maintain the medial arch of the foot, and hence the subtalar joint can go for pronation and there will be collapse of the medial arch. This medial arch, which is normally seen over here, won't be seen. The foot will go for pronation, right? Because of the weakness of the intrinsic muscles. And also it is seen in some congenital cases. Now, what is the significance of this? We see that supination of the subtalar joint can cause talar abduction, right? And this will cause tibia to rotate laterally. We saw that the lateral rotation or abduction of the talus will cause the tibia, which is on top of it, to rotate laterally. Now this can cause lot of unnecessary torsional forces in the proximal joints like knee, hip and back. Whereas the significance of pronation, that is a flat foot, it will cause the talus to go for adduction. It will rotate in the medial direction. This will also cause rotation of the tibia and fibula or the mortise, which is formed on top of the talus, to rotate medially. And this again will cause lot of torsional forces in the knee, hip and back. Especially the medial rotation of knee can cause damage to the medial meniscus. Now to summarize the topic, we talked about the range of motion of the subtalar joint. The range of motion, that is the total range of 25 to 45 degree. Then we talked about certain factors which can cause subtalar inversion and eversion. Then we talked about the factors which can cause subtalar supination and pronation, or the supination and pronation of the subtalar joint, how it can affect the other things like the femoral or tibial torsion, how subtalar supination or pronation can cause femoral and tibial torsion and can cause problems in the knee, back and hip. And then we saw the significance of that. So that's all for today guys. Thank you for watching. If you like my video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and also let me know in the comments what other videos you would like me to cover. Thank you for watching and see you soon in the next video.